Title: Childcare centres forced to turn away families due to staff shortages. More than half of Australian childcare centres are capping enrolment numbers due to workforce shortages, according to a national survey by the Australian Childcare Alliance. The report revealed that 16,300 places were cut off in a single week in February this year, leaving parents without care options and hurting their ability to work. The crisis is particularly dire in regional areas where 82% of South Australians have no access to childcare services. The shortage has been predicted since 2013, and the government must act now to address the worker shortage and ensure the sector's growth and viability. Calls to elder abuse helpline spike as cost of living increases. Advocates are concerned about a spike in elder abuse in Victoria, with reports of older people being mistreated on the rise due to increasing financial pressures. The leading organisation tackling elder abuse in the state, Seniors Rights Victoria (SRV), received a 39% increase in calls to its helpline in the first quarter of 2023, with most relating to elder abuse. About 1 in 6 Australians aged 65 and older have experienced some form of elder abuse. The lingering impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, combined with the ongoing cost of living crisis, were the likely drivers of the increase in calls for help. Bridget McKenzie rebukes Barnaby Joyce, backs Lydia Thorpe for using Senate to raise allegations. Coalition frontbencher Bridget McKenzie has supported independent Senator Lydia Thorpe's use of parliamentary privilege to raise allegations of sexual harassment in Parliament House. This follows Senator Thorpe's use of parliamentary privilege to accuse Senator David Van of sexually harassing her and her subsequent withdrawal of the allegations. Senator McKenzie disagreed with former Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce's accusations that Senator Thorpe misused parliamentary privilege. She also praised opposition leader Peter Dutton's decisive actions in response to the multiple allegations made against Senator Van. This takes place amidst a heated debate about the treatment of women in Parliament House. Title: Western Bulldogs overcome injuries to secure top 8 spot with a win over North Melbourne. Description: The Western Bulldogs secured their place in the top 8 with a 21-point win over North Melbourne, despite facing a personnel crisis in defence due to injuries. Leading goal kicker Aaron Naughton was moved to defence after running defenders Jason Johannesson and Ed Richards were already out due to hamstring strains. Cody Waitman shone in his 50th game, kicking a career-best 6 goals to help break the game open. Marcus Bontempelli, Tom Liberatore, Adam Treloar, and Tim English also put in strong performances. The Bulldogs snapped a 3-match losing run with the win. Hashtags. Title: Cronulla Sharks thrash Canterbury Bulldogs in impressive display. The Cronulla Sharks have dominated the Canterbury Bulldogs in a crushing 48-10 victory. Nicker Hines played an instrumental role in the win, inspiring his team with 222 run meters and 2 try assists. The Sharks forwards also stepped up, with Braden Hamlin-Uel scoring his first try of the year, and the team scoring 3 more tries from close range. The Bulldogs had a poor showing, missing their halfback Matt Burton and conceding multiple avoidable penalties. The Sharks' win puts them back in the top 4 ahead of their bye, while the Bulldogs fall to 16th in the league. Title: Rare insight into endangered birds' mating habits through sound recordings. Recordings of male Australasian bitterns' mating calls have offered hope for the recovery of the endangered species. With only 1,300 bitterns left in the wild, sound recorders placed in the Barmah-Milawa forest captured near record numbers of the birds' mating calls. Charles Sturt University's Elizabeth Znaidershich said that tracking the bitterns' call gave the best insight into their breeding activity. Floods in the Murray River last September led to water levels in the forest rising and falling by about 4 meters. Surprisingly, the birds became active as the water receded, leading to a later than normal breeding season. For successful fledging, additional water was delivered into the wetlands. Hobart Council to double rates for short-stay properties. As rental prices climb, it's difficult to escape the number of short-stay properties around Hobart. Owners may soon be charged double rates as the council tries to limit their impact and spread. The proliferation of Airbnbs in suburban Hobart is becoming a concern for residents. Homeowners who turn their houses into Airbnbs may make a lot of money, but the interests of someone who is desperately looking for a house must also be considered. The council's decision to double rates for short-stay properties is a step in the right direction towards regulating the number of short-stay properties in Hobart. Title: Expansion of government scheme to offer additional support to flood victims. The Queensland Government has announced an expansion of its Resilient Homes Fund to include 300 more homes affected by the 2022 flooding disaster in southeast Queensland. The fund, which was initially projected to help 500 homes with 3 separate programs for retrofitting, raising, or buying back homes, is now set to repatriate up to 800 houses. Demand for support has been higher than predicted and applications for the buyback scheme have already closed, but applications for homes to be raised and retrofitted are still open and will close at the end of July. Microsoft says hacktivist group was behind Office outage this month. Microsoft has confirmed that a hacktivist group called Anonymous Sudan was behind the major outage of Office Suite programs earlier this month. The group claimed responsibility on its social media channel at the time of the attack. Microsoft initially held back from confirming the cause, but now says the attackers used rented cloud infrastructure and virtual private networks to bombard its servers from botnets of zombie computers around the world. Microsoft said no customer data was accessed or compromised. Cybersecurity researchers have suggested that the attackers may be Russian. The incident highlights the continued threat of distributed denial of service attacks. Fly High Young Gerv, emotional tribute from sporting teammates for 13-year-old who died after e-bike crash. The Shellharbour Stingrays under-14 rugby league club paid tribute to their teammate Jervis Willilo after his death from an e-bike accident. Willilo's squad opted to play on Saturday in honour of the 13-year-old. After the game, his teammates and friends performed a haka in his memory. Willilo died on Friday night when his e-bike crashed into a wooden fence while he was riding through Di Gorman Oval in Albion Park, Australia. The team and club said it would retire his number 12 jersey in his honour. Friends have also started a GoFundMe for the family. Investigation underway after driverless train derails in the Pilbara. Rio Tinto is facing an investigation after one of its driverless iron ore trains derailed in Western Australia's Pilbara region. The incident occurred on Saturday evening near Karratha, causing more than a dozen train carts to overturn and block a rail line. Thankfully, no one was injured in the incident, and the train was in autonomous mode. Rio Tinto has confirmed that it has notified the Office of the National Rail Safety Regulator and commenced work to recover the derailed wagons. The safety and well-being of the company's people remain the top priority. Car plows into Victorian high school leaving driver with critical injuries. A 37-year-old man is fighting for his life after his car crashed into Healesville High School in Victoria, leaving him with life-threatening injuries. The incident occurred on Sunday morning, and emergency services were quickly on the scene to treat the driver. The man was airlifted to Royal Melbourne Hospital with critical injuries. Police have asked for anyone with information or footage of the crash to come forward. The investigation is ongoing. Title: South Australia to allow renters to own pets under proposed reforms. South Australian renters will soon have the right to pet ownership under proposed rental reforms by the state government. The changes to the Residential Tenancies Act will remove the blanket ban on pets in rentals and require property owners to negotiate with tenants depending on their individual circumstances. The proposed reforms will allow tenants to apply to the South Australian Civil and Administrative Tribunal (SACAT) if they believe their request for pet ownership was unreasonably refused. The government hopes to introduce the changes within the next 12 months and put an end to pets being surrendered to shelters due to rental issues. Union demands government to increase staff at youth detention centre after second blaze within a month. The Health and Community Services Union (HACSU) is calling on the government to increase staffing levels at the Ashley Youth Detention Centre in Tasmania after a fire broke out in a unit that houses detainees. The HACSU argued that understaffing is creating a volatile atmosphere and leading to lockdowns and restrictive practices. The union also revealed that 2 to 3 weeks ago, another fire was lit in a bedroom at the facility by a detainee who had smuggled matches into the detention centre. The government must address the issue and ensure the safety of both the staff and the detainees. Title: Charity business developer Nicole Tarai-Verner announced as Liberal candidate for Warrandyte by-election. The Victorian Liberal Party has announced that Nicole Tarai-Verner, a charity business development manager, will run on the party's ticket in the upcoming Warrandyte by-election. The seat, which has been in Liberal hands since 1988, was vacated by former MP Ryan Smith in May. Verner beat out 8 other candidates for the Liberal nomination. The by-election will be a test for the leadership of opposition leader John Pesutto, who has come under fire in recent weeks over the handling of former MP Moira Deeming's expulsion from the party. Labor has not yet announced if it will contest the seat. Title: 1 dead, 1 injured in Central Australia rollover crash. A single vehicle rollover in Central Australia has resulted in the death of a 27-year-old woman and injured another person. The incident occurred northeast of Alice Springs on Saturday afternoon, prompting police to notify NT WorkSafe of the crash. The passenger sustained non-life-threatening injuries and was taken to the Alpara Clinic for treatment. The Major Crash Investigation Unit is currently investigating the circumstances surrounding the incident. This tragedy marks the 6th death on Northern Territory roads this year and the 2nd fatal crash this month, highlighting the ongoing need for road safety measures. Relief and elation as missing diver found after spending night on remote New South Wales island. A spear fisherman who spent the night on a remote island in the Bayerwa National Park has been found safe and well on day 2 of the search. The alarm was raised when the 64-year-old failed to return from a dive near Leonards Island, south of Merimbula. A multi-agency search was launched, involving teams from the South Coast Police District, Marine Police, Marine Rescue Merimbula, and Eden Volunteers, New South Wales Ambulance, local Surf Life-Saving Club members, and a rescue helicopter. The missing fisherman was found safe and well on the coast in the Bayerwa National Park and taken by boat to Eden's Snug Cove. New South Wales Treasurer to warn state's credit rating is under threat. New South Wales Treasurer Daniel Mulcahy is set to sound the alarm that the state's 2 AAA credit ratings are at risk of being downgraded in the upcoming budget update. New South Wales had its AAA credit ratings reaffirmed by Moody's and Fitch last year, but S&P Global has the state at AA+. The government has been vocal about the state's finances, which are on track to reach $187.5 billion in gross debt and forecast a deficit of $12 billion this year and $7 billion next year. The Labor opposition has criticised the move to scale back the Active and Creative Kids vouchers. Philippine ferry carrying 120 passengers catches fire at sea. A ferry traveling between Siquijor and Bohol provinces in the central Philippines caught fire at dawn on Sunday. The Coast Guard was able to rescue all 65 passengers and 55 crew members, while 2 vessels were deployed to help extinguish the flames, which raged for more than 5 hours. Maritime accidents are common in the Philippine archipelago due to frequent storms, badly maintained vessels, overcrowding, and spotty enforcement of safety regulations, especially in remote regions. An investigation is underway. In March, a ferry fire killed at least 31 passengers and crew members, while the worst peacetime maritime disaster occurred in December 1987 when the ferry Dona Paz sank, killing over 4,300 people. Title: Concerns raised over new staff-to-patient ratio guidelines at Perth Children's Hospital. New nursing staff-to-patient ratio guidelines are set to take effect at Perth Children's Hospital in July, more than 2 years after the death of 7-year-old Aishwarya Aswath, who died of sepsis while waiting to be admitted. The government has committed to implementing a 1:3 staff-to-patient ratio in the hospital's emergency department, but concerns remain over where the extra staff will come from and how the guidelines will be enforced. The Australian Nursing Federation and Australian Medical Association's WA branch have raised questions about staffing levels and an ad hoc approach to implementing the ratios. Aishwarya's parents have called for a royal commission into WA's health system. Magnitude 3.1 earthquake strikes Appin region on the outskirts of Sydney's southwest. A 3.1 magnitude earthquake hit the Appin region, approximately 75 kilometres southwest of Sydney. The tremor struck at 2:05 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, just north of Douglas Park, about 3 kilometres below the Earth's crust. According to a senior seismologist with Geoscience Australia, Hadi Ghassemi, the shallow event was considered a small earthquake. Local residents reported feeling their homes shake and rattle, but no damage to buildings or structures was caused. Mr. Ghassemi said there had been no aftershocks so far. In the past decade, at least 48 similar quakes had occurred within a 100-kilometre radius of the earthquake's epicenter. Title: U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken begins meetings in Beijing, the first in 5 years. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is currently in Beijing for meetings with Chinese officials, the first high-level talks between the two countries in 5 years. The visit comes amid growing tensions between the U.S. and China over several issues, including trade, human rights, and the status of Taiwan. While the meetings are not expected to yield any major breakthroughs, both sides have expressed a desire to establish open and durable communication channels to prevent the situation from escalating further. The world will be closely watching this trip as any escalation between these two superpowers could have global repercussions. Senior UK minister describes latest lockdown party video as terrible amid COVID rule-breaking gatherings. A video of a party at the Conservative Party's headquarters during a COVID-19 lockdown in 2020 has been described as terrible by senior British Minister Michael Gove. The Mirror newspaper had released the video just days after a parliamentary committee ruled that former Prime Minister Boris Johnson had willfully misled MPs about rule-breaking lockdown parties at his office. The issue of rule-breaking during COVID lockdowns still hangs over the Conservative Party and current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. The next election must be held by late 2024. Hashtags. Title: India suffers fatalities from sweltering heatwave. At least 96 people have died in India over the last several days due to a sweltering heatwave. The deaths occurred in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh and eastern Bihar, with most of the victims being over 60 years old and having pre-existing health conditions. The authorities have cancelled the leave of medical personnel and provided additional beds in the emergency ward due to the influx of patients. Temperatures have risen above normal, with no relief expected in the next 24 hours. A searing heatwave in South Asia was made at least 30 times more likely by climate change, according to World Weather Attribution.